Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So, I've got you guys an update on a massive heat wave that is currently impacting the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. We're talking about incredibly dangerous heat that could definitely cause a risk to people with overheating and just you gotta stay cool today. All right, today through Friday is really when the core of the heat wave will be impacting mainly the Northeast. Okay, we're talking about heat indices getting up to over 100 degrees in many areas with excessive heat warnings in effect. We're also talking about our first named storm of the season that is currently making landfall in between Texas and the eastern coast of Mexico down here. We're talking about Tropical Storm Alberto, which you can currently see on radar, producing very heavy rainfall across South Texas. And I've got all the details coming right up. All right, so thank you for joining me here on this Wednesday. Yes, it's a Wednesday afternoon. All right, we have a lot to talk about in this video with our heat wave. We're going to be breaking down why it's going to feel so hot and how dangerous this heat's really going to be. We're also going to be talking about what's to come with the rest of Tropical Storm Alberto. But just starting out with your current radar, I mean, there's nothing much going on, nothing that's pretty significant. But we'll start out here with this broken line of storms that for the most part has been, just strong, but, not many severe storms have escalated out of this. But you could see we have a large swath of some strong to severe storms. I mean, once again, mostly just strong storms, but some showers and thunderstorms moving their way across the Central Plains into the Midwest. All right, maybe a few stronger storms up towards the upper Midwest or the Great Lakes regions. All right, but that's pretty much it for that event. But New Mexico has been absolutely popping off with severe weather just in the past hour. If you look at these little cells that have just begun to fire across the region, we've already gotten two flash flooding emergencies just because of how insanely heavy this rain has been. We're talking about rainfall rates with these cells that could be up to 2 inches per hour, but that is absolutely insane. We have a destructive severe thunderstorm in northern New Mexico, okay? So, big time hail. We're talking about up to baseball sized hail with this event. I mean, you just got to be prepared if you're in New Mexico. I know you guys have just dealt with insane heat with this heat wave, and now it's pushing off to the east. Well, now you got to deal with severe weather. And yeah, that's what we've got going on over there. And then finally in the Northeast, let me move my pen. I'll move it to this side, clean this up, and there we go. All right, if you look in the Northeast, we do have a little line of storms that's beginning to move its way down. The Northeast radar, or just, the different radar sites in the Northeast are very glitchy on this site. You can see up here, I mean, this is just a bunch of, glitches in the radar, but there is something here. It's not 100% correct information, but there is definitely something here. There is a line of storms that's moving their way across this region, and the only reason is because we have high dew points, and just because of how insanely hot it is. So just with the heating of the afternoon, daytime temperatures and just the very humid conditions, we're going to get storm activity, and therefore we do have convection popping off out there in the Northeast. So a strong to severe storm, one or two of those is definitely possible. And like I mentioned earlier, we do have Tropical Storm Alberto that's currently making landfall in between Texas and Mexico. I'm going to give you all the details on what's to come with that. All right, so let's move on here to your current alerts. All right, so talking about the Northeast, look at this. In the orange shade, we have a widespread just area here that is currently under heat advisories. That's in the orange shade. Entire states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, pretty much all of New York State. You got Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and soon to be what I think will be Rhode Island to be under this heat advisory. So this is over 100 million Americans out here that are currently under a heat advisory at least. But if you're in the pink shade, you are currently under an excessive heat warning, okay? So the first one going out for central Maine down to southern Maine that spills into portions of southeastern New Hampshire, okay? I mean, up there, you're talking about hotter conditions than what's going on down in eastern PA, okay? So for just some coincidence, because the high pressure is up towards Canada, and because you guys are farther north, you guys are dealing with the more intense heat. So we're talking about expected temperatures to get up to 100 degrees or over, with heat indices going all the way up to potentially 110 degrees. Okay, but you can see in the southwestern portion of Pennsylvania, this does include, I believe, Pittsburgh. You guys are currently under an excessive heat warning. Same thing for portions of northwestern Ohio and northeastern Indiana in that pink shade. All right, and then you can see down in southern Texas. All right, we do have in this green shade, this dark green shade, a flood watch. In this red shade, this is where you have tropical storm warnings. We're going to talk about that in a bit. All right, you still do have some flood watches going out for portions of New Mexico. And remember, we do have a flash flood emergency currently in effect at the time of recording this video for a county. I believe that's actually 2 counties, or no, that's 3 counties out there in southern New Mexico. So please be aware of that if you are traveling to any of those counties. You're probably, especially if you're talking about the flash flood emergency, because it says it's an emergency, so you definitely want to avoid whatever county that is. So New Mexico is definitely not the highest populated state out there. So if any of you are watching this video from New Mexico and specifically anywhere near the flash flood emergency, just please try and avoid that. Just if your office is somehow in the county that's under the flash flood emergency, just don't go to work. For the rest of today. I don't know. But you know what I mean. Just try and avoid it for the most part. But we do have more excessive heat warnings here for southern Arizona. The heat has returned for you guys out there, and also for the hills and valleys of California. In this orange shade, you have once again heat advisories. All right, so we're gonna break down this heat wave. We're gonna break down how hot it's really gonna feel out here in the Northeast. You can see just with the 18Z run of the the HRRR. My goodness, I'm all over the place today. With the HRRR, the 18Z run, these were our highs today as far as what our heat index looks like. And so you can see, a big chunk of areas in New England here, especially towards the coastline, not on the immediate coast, but definitely towards the coastline, are experiencing, real feels up into the hundreds. Okay, we could definitely get up to 110, according to the HRRR in some areas here. You could see down to south central New York State. You can see we're well into the hundreds, topping off at about 105 in some of these areas, at least close to 105. Look at Vermont. Look at Western Vermont. Western Vermont, you guys could definitely get up to, look at that right there, 110 degrees. So this is what it feels like. This is not the actual temperature, guys. I want to make sure that's clear, but this is what the temperature is making it feel like. And so right now, the HRRR is saying that it feels like 110 degrees in some areas of Western Vermont. That could definitely be overdone a little bit, but if that's true, you could just see. That goes to show, just the intensity of this heat, how dangerous it is. But even up into Canada, even up beyond the the United States, you can see up in Canada where that high pressure is, where the core of the high pressure is. You're still getting real field temperatures up into the hundreds. Okay, but regardless, everybody out here in this white shade, in this really dark red shade, you're talking about upper 90s into the lower hundreds for your heat index. Okay, but down over to Maine, all right, you can see once again 105, sticking around 105 for your real field temperatures, getting down to New Hampshire. Remember, this exact area, this circled area here, this is where your excessive heat warnings are, and you can just see, that's exactly where the most intense heat seems to be. Around 105 degrees is what it feels like out there right now across down East Maine, and also across portions of southeastern New Hampshire. Okay, and then even into Connecticut, we're still talking about heat index that could definitely reach 105 degrees. We just flashed 107 right there, 107 degrees near Hartford. Okay, so this is the kind of heat that we're talking about. Excuse me, that is across Massachusetts, but the Springfield area still, you'll be in the upper 90s, lower hundreds. Boston area, look at that, 106 near Boston. So that's not the actual temperature. Once again, that's not the actual temperature, but it feels like it's 106 because of how hot it is and how much humidity is built into the air. But you can still see, even into Connecticut, not exactly around the Hartford area, but still north central Connecticut, you're getting up to, I could even see some people getting up to 105 with their real field temperature today across north central Connecticut. But even into Long Island, in my area, we're still talking about real fields that could get into the 90s. Okay, same thing for areas across New Jersey. You can see with the upper elevations of PA into West Virginia, you're talking about a little bit of a cooler temperature, and then you can see everywhere else you're definitely in the 90s, but some of you guys are getting well above 100 degrees. So that was today. Now these temperatures will finally start to cool down, but you see how we get to the core of tonight. I keep using the word core, but we get to like the middle of the night is what I like to say. All right, the middle of the night. You're still well into the 70s. Some of you guys are still around 80 degrees by the time we get to the middle of the night. So we're supposed to get really cool, but it's not going to be like that if you're in the Northeast. Tonight it's going to feel like a spring afternoon, but for your nighttime temperatures. And just because of how warm it's going to be overnight, the temperatures can easily get back up to where they were into the 90s and sometimes even the hundreds for some areas, just because this high pressure is so intense. But we get into tomorrow afternoon. Let's get into this. Is Thursday, guys. Thursday tomorrow. Okay, pretty much the same story. You see those little bubbly spots here? Turns out that these are actually thunderstorm cells that are beginning to move their way across the region. It's again because of how hot it is and how much humidity is in the air. We're able to see convection across pretty much what's looking like the interior Northeast for the most part. But still, over to Ohio, we're still talking about real feels into the hundreds. You can see across the coastline, still in the Northeast, well into the 90s. Some people could definitely get to 100. Let's look at the city here. Still around 95 degrees with what the temperature feels like. But still, the Boston area, well over 100 degrees, potentially up to 105 once again. Maine, still around 100 degrees for your real feels. Okay, Finger Lakes region of New York, it looks like you're going to get a storm or two tomorrow, so you may get cooled down a little bit, but it's still going to be a very steamy day. So a steamy thunderstorm is expected. Isolated steamy thunderstorms are expected tomorrow. All right, but still into areas near like Watertown. Still around 100 degrees for what it feels like outside. But I mean, you get the gist of it. How it's gonna be really, really hot today, tomorrow, and then we get into Friday, all the way to Friday, and you can see the cold front helps push all the heat down south, and immediately we get cooled off into Maine. And look at this. Oh my gosh, guys, look at this. You go from today having a heat index of 106. Wait, we just flashed 109 right here. Okay, 109. Let me circle that area. Right into here. Right into here. 109 degree heat index. Okay, and then we take this out to Friday afternoon. We get to Friday afternoon, and we're down to the 50s. Okay, so it's going to go from feeling like 110 pretty much, all the way down to borderline 60 degrees on Friday. I mean, that is a huge fall off there. I mean, that's a 50 degree difference. And that's just going to happen in like 48 hours. Okay, so I mean, that's just unbelievable. But it's going to get significantly cooler with this very strong cold front. But it's going to push all this warm air further south. So now the southeast, the Ohio Valley, still going to be very hot, even into southern New England. All right, you guys are still going to be very hot, but the heat's not going to be as intense because the cold front's now pushing down on it, weakening it as it shifts to the south. And so next, factor that's going to pay here, or it's going to play with just how hot it's actually going to feel is our dew points. All right, dew points is pretty much just humid, how much of the air is saturated here. I mean, you have dew points that are into the 70s. Okay, it's just downright gross out here. I mean, it's disgusting. And we just flashed 80 degree dew points out here in the south central Maine. That is ridiculous. I mean, I'm telling you guys, it's not supposed to feel like this in June. It's not supposed to feel like this in June in the Northeast, but it's just because of how crazy this heat's going to be and how much, humid air and warm air is just going to be able to be thrusted and lifted into the Northeast. It's just incredible. But the interior Northeast, widespread lower to mid 70s, upper 70s for those areas that are developing thunderstorms. I mean, and it continues. We get into tomorrow afternoon. We see the same thing, 70s throughout the night as well. Okay, and then we get all the way to Friday, and we still see some isolated spots of 70 degree dew points. I mean, it's just going to feel downright gross out there. That's all I'm going to say. But if you're in South Central Maine, I'll tell you, I feel very bad for you because you guys are not used to this at all. You're still, dealing with some cool temperatures this time of year, but all of a sudden you go up to it's feeling like 110 all of a sudden with the crazy dew points getting up to 80 degrees in some areas, I mean, you must be thinking, like, did the world just change? Like, did we just get flipped upside down? Like, you must feel like that you're in Florida. It honestly probably feels like you're in Florida if you're in southern Maine today. All right, so I feel bad for you guys, but I mean, we just pretty much need to get to Friday, and then after Friday, things will start to calm down. We'll start to see this moist air, this saturated air, begin to kind of retreat farther south, and we'll see some drier take over as we get into the weekend and into next week. All right, so enough with the heat wave. We're going to talk about the tropics now. All right, so now you can see something has changed. We now have Tropical Storm Alberto that did form this afternoon. All right, we have sustained winds here at 40 miles per hour with a minimum central pressure at around 995 millibars. This is moving west at 9 miles per hour, so a very slow moving storm. It has not made much progress. It was actually stationary as of last night, all right? But this is what we've got as of right now. We still have our little tropical disturbance that does have now just a 20% chance of developing in the next 48 hours. And quickly we'll look at the 7-day graphic here to show you we do have another area of possible formation in the Gulf. It's not associated with Alberto. This is actually a separate area of just a lot of convection that's going to be happening with some gradual development that's possible in the next 7 days. We have a 30% chance of development. All right, and so we're going to go over here to the satellite loop of Alberto. This is what we got. Taking a look at Alberto just with the satellite loop, you can see we do have a pretty gradual spin, and it almost does look like the center of the storm is becoming a little bit more well-defined here. We can actually locate a low-pressure center right into there. That's pretty much what we're going to be talking about for that low-pressure center. But you could see the spin, in the movement of this storm. Let me pick a good color that you guys can see. Let's try blue. Not the best color, but yeah, you could definitely see a lot of spin going on here with Alberto. This is definitely a strengthening storm. You can see just so much limited wind shear here. There's just absolutely no wind shear. I mean, if there were wind shear cutting through here, guys, this whole northern side of the storm would be cut off. So that means that Texas would not be dealing with what it's dealing with right now. But anyways, I mean, you could see in in the southern half of the storm, all this booming convection going on. These whites and these purples. I mean, these are high cloud tops, cold cloud tops. This is what we call what I would like to call booming convection. So we have a lot of thunderstorm activity still going on with Alberto. As it strengthens, it will continue to move towards Mexico and Texas. But I mean, that's what it's looking like as of right now. And so we go over to the forecasted cone for Alberto. You can see the wind field is just massive because of how big the storm actually is. We're dealing with tropical storm force winds all the way up into southern Texas, but the center of the storm is down into the east central coast of Mexico. Okay, so you could just see how wide and how big the wind field is with Tropical Storm Alberto. All right, so this is the 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time advisory from the National Hurricane Center, but they are saying that as of 7 a.m. Thursday, this will have made landfall on the eastern coast of Mexico as a tropical storm. It will continue towards central Mexico, where it will kind of just fizzle out as a tropical depression by 7 p.m. tomorrow. But tomorrow morning, it seems like we still will have Tropical Storm Alberto on our hands as it makes landfall. Tropical storm warnings in the blue state. You got tropical storm warnings all the way up from really the Galveston, Texas area, all the way down through Rockport, some of these areas along the South Texas shoreline. It goes all the way down the coast, and then finally ends just to the south of the cone here of Alberto near the Yucatan Peninsula. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm not familiar with this area, guys. I'll just say that for once. So I apologize if I get any of these locations wrong, but just the general eastern coast of Mexico, where this blue line is, that's where you have the tropical storm warnings. All right, and so we go over to your storm surge forecast. This is your peak storm surge forecast. This hasn't changed. 1 to 3 feet of storm surge from the mouth of the Rio Grande all the way up to Sargent is expected. Okay, you can see in these little bodies of water that kind of stick into Texas here, you can still see 1 to 3 feet of storm surge. We already have, impacts are definitely they're well underway across Texas. Last night we actually did have some pretty intense flooding across the Galveston area. We had big storm surge with pretty much exactly what the National Hurricane Center forecasted. It seemed like from the video I looked at, we were dealing with about 2 to 4 feet of storm surge. So pretty much spot on by the National Hurricane Center on this. This is, for one, I mean, this is very accurate information that you're dealing with. But Sargent all the way up to Sabine Pass, you're talking about 2 to 4 feet of storm surge. That does include Galveston Bay. Okay, so this entire area highlighted in yellow, you're talking about storm surge that will be up to 4 feet. Okay, and then once again, another second area of 1 to 3 feet of storm surge is possible near Sabine Pass towards Vermilion and Cameron Parish line. All right, so if you're in the blue shade, you're up to 3 feet of storm surge. Yellow shade, up to 4 feet of storm surge. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. Thanks so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. So I apologize for the sloppiness of that video. I have to get back in the groove of making updates, and I also haven't talked about the tropics in a while, so I'm just getting back to this. I did struggle with the heat wave part of this video, so once again, I apologize about that. But please consider subscribing, leave a like down below. But once again, if you guys subscribe, it helps me in every which way, and so we're gonna also try to get to 1K by the end of this year. But anyways, thank you all for coming to watch, and I will see you guys in the next video.